AITA for flipping out on BF after he went on a couple's retreat without me. I'm 29F. My BF is 30 meters. I have 2 kids that are not his biologically, and we have been together 4 years. Last week his buddy invited him and I to go on a 4-day couple's retreat with him, his wife and his other friend and his GF. Apparently there is couples massages, romantic dinners, etc. We were due to leave today. My BF mentioned it to me, so I started looking around for babysitters. Unfortunately, I was not able to find a sitter. Their dad hardly ever takes them, and their grandmother is just as much of a deadbeat and only sees the kids to post photos on FB and act like grandmother of the year. Normally when we make plans he will reach out to his mom or Sil because they are the only people in our area. He didn't do that, so I called them yesterday to see if they would, but obviously they couldn't. I figured since I could not go, he would not go on the couple's retreat. I wake up this morning at 5 a.m. to him packing. I asked him what he was doing and he said, packing. I need to leave here by 7 a.m. to meet up with George. So I asked him why he still intended to go on a couple's retreat when his partner couldn't even go, and I asked him if he had even wanted me to go, since he didn't bother helping me look for a sitter originally anyways, and he said, if you wanted to go, you would have found a sitter. I don't have time for this. This really bothered me a great deal. He kissed my forehead and left. 15 minutes ago I get a text from him which included pictures of his suite that had flower petals, champagne, even a heart-shaped bed. I texted back and said, have a good time. He took this as an attack and said, don't be clipped with me. It's not my fault you didn't find a sitter. So I responded with, I wasn't being clipped, and it would have been nice if you could have helped find a sitter. I know they aren't your kids, but if you wanted me to go you should have put in effort. He responded with, you're being an asshole right now, and quite frankly, you're being overdramatic as well. AITA for getting upset with the fact that he went without me. NTA. He's supposed to be your partner. The whole, if you wanted to go you would have found a sitter, could easily be turned into, if he wanted you to go he would have found a sitter. It's a weak argument. The fact that he took "have a nice time" as a confrontational text rather than genuine makes it seem to me like he knew he was doing something that would bother you. It's all very unnecessary, emo. You aren't the asshole. So, your kids aren't his responsibility, he leaves you behind, and you are the asshole. Well, I wouldn't want someone this selfish, deluded, and uncaring in my life. Pack his shit while he's gone. Info. How does his mom and Sil feel about babysitting for you? Does this happen often? It sounds like he may not have wanted to ask them for another favor. And isn't that communicating to you? NTA. This is kinda odd. NGL. He went on a retreat for partners and didn't take you, his partner. Edit. Holy shit. Never thought my most upvoted thing would be pointing out a red flag. Esh. The communication between the two of you sucks. You waited a week and called the night before to ask if they could babysit. Why wouldn't you have talked with him about asking his family? Why didn't he tell you he still planned to go? NTA. And I have a strong feeling that someone who isn't you is there with him. This is more about perception. You think that you've been together long enough for him to consider you and your kids' family, while he still considers the kids as yours and your family alone. NTAWTF. Who's his partner for this retreat? His hand? NTA. He could have helped getting a sitter even if they aren't his kid. It makes no sense to go on a couple's retreat without your partner. And the way he talked to you isn't really that great. NTA. Please reconsider this relationship. It seems toxic. I'd say Esh. He typically arranges childcare for children that aren't his. For a woman he's not married to, that's a pretty good deal for you. It sounds like you got used to that special treatment and resent not having it this time. Understandable, but not excusable. What are his parents doing watching his girlfriend's kids anyway? That's extremely generous of them, and it sounds like you're taking it for granted. He's done more than I'd have done. But for him to get offended at "have a nice time" means he was expecting a fight. Maybe that's because you assumed he wouldn't go without you. But I'd say that fight over text was his fault. Unless you actually had some spite behind that text, which is very probable but can't be proven. It's not his responsibility to help you find a sitter. And he's not going to not go just because you couldn't. He reacted poorly when you told him to have a good time, probably because he felt guilty, and that is not an excuse to be an asshole. Nah, they are your kids and you should have found a babysitter. It would have been nice if he stayed behind. But he doesn't have to just because you couldn't figure out the kids' situation. I think he definitely read the room wrong sending the pics. I don't see any reason for him to do that on purpose, so I think he was just there. It's not unreasonable they hurt your feelings, rubbed it in. Also, communicate. Don't just assume. When you realized you had no babysitter, you should have asked if he planned to go without you. Sucks the kid's dad, grandma aren't helpful. But you also only had a week to find a babysitter, so I am not surprised no one in the family could help. Maybe find an actual babysitter you can pay to rely on. A reasonable compromise for the future might be that people need to give you a little more time to find a babysitter so these trips are possible for you. YTA. First of all, why is his family the one doing the babysitting? They're not even related to the kids, so yeah, it's nice that they help, but it shouldn't be expected. You should have other people to rely on for childcare. It's not fair for him to miss out on things because of you or your kids. If you want someone to sacrifice, then look elsewhere and leave this man be. Jeez. She shouldn't have gone to the couple retreat, but why is he the one who has to do the work to find a sitter and use his family to always babysit whenever he wants to do something with his GF? And she called his mother and his sister the day before, and when they couldn't, she just shrugged and said, "Guess we're missing out on this fun experience 'cause my ex is a deadbeat." I'd be annoyed as well. You more so than him. You say typically he is the one who gets his own mother or Sil to watch your children. You did not bother to ask them yourself until the day before? You've become over-dependent, and you just expected him to do the legwork for you, framing it as helping you find the babysitter. No, you expected him to arrange the childcare for your children all by himself when he always does it for you, and it's always his mom or sister doing it. Yes, he's been in the kids' lives for 4 years. But you two are not married and he is not their stepfather. He has no legal right to them should his relationship ever end. They are not his kids. They're yours. And procuring childcare is your responsibility. He is being petty sending you those pictures and could deal with his anger over your complacency. And should have communicated clearly beforehand about your lack of mental labor on the childcare procurement front. But you made it clear you're entitled to him. Someone who's not even a parent to these kids, making babysitting arrangements and his family babysitting your kids for you. And why should he have to tell you to look for a babysitter for your own children? He is not your manager. When he comes back, if you don't want to lose him, you two need to go to counseling. And you both need to admit to yourselves and each other about how you two are going to communicate better and share the load more equitably. Why is everybody ignoring the fact that he usually contacts his mother and Sil for her kids? Maybe he was just tired of it, wanting her to arrange it once for herself. ESH. YTA. And you sound very entitled. Their grandma isn't a deadbeat because she doesn't want to babysit your children. LMAO. and your boyfriend has been incredibly generous in the past, asking his family members to watch kids that aren't even related to them. It sounds like you barely made an effort to find a sitter, expecting your boyfriend to do it, and then got pissed when he didn't, even though, ultimately, it's your responsibility. Why should your boyfriend have to miss out on a probably already paid for trip because you couldn't get your shit together? He's probably super bummed he had to go on a couple's trip without you. Everyone on here is telling you to break up with your boyfriend, but honestly, if I were him, I would break up with you. Ash, y'all need some counseling. This is just bad communication all around. YTA, and you sound very entitled. Their grandma's a deadbeat because she doesn't want to babysit your children, LMAO. And your boyfriend has been incredibly generous in the past, asking his family members to watch kids that aren't even related to them. It sounds like you barely made an effort to find a sitter, expecting your boyfriend to do it, and then got pissed when he didn't, even though, ultimately, it's your responsibility. Why should your boyfriend have to miss out on a probably already paid for trip because you couldn't get your shit together? He's probably super bummed he had to go on a couple's trip without you. Everyone on here is telling you to break up with your boyfriend, but honestly, if I were him, I would break up with you.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.